Welcome, everyone, to the fifth annual Omer Aliyah, a 7-week spiritual boot camp of personal elevation, or simply known as TOA. My name is Nuriel Shore. Thank you for tuning into the Malchut seminar, our final seminar of our 7-week empowerment series. TOA is a global grassroots movement for every Jew around the world to utilize the power of Sfirat Omer and reveal our individual and national greatness. Inside each of us is a light waiting to be unleashed, and by systematically rectifying spiritual blockages with Hashem's help, we will not only transform into the greatest versions of ourselves, but will also generate blessing for the world. Et ruta del tata, et ruta del ela. Our actions below will cause actions on high. By embarking on this journey together, we travel in time from Pesach to Shavuot, forming a global collective consciousness of Ish Echad B'Lev Echad, one person with one heart, just like our people experienced over 3,300 years ago at the base of Har Sinai. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our community partners and to thank and recognize our sponsors who are part of this grand vision. Suzanne Schweitzer, Fred and Susie Totchek, Josh Reef, and Charlene Venner in memory of Nathan, Shirley, and Philip Venner Zechron Levracha. For more information about being a community partner, sponsor, or TOA in general, visit www.omeraliyah.com. We are in the final week of Sfirat Omer, Malchut, and have the pleasure of learning from Batsheva Frankel. Batsheva is a veteran Jewish educator, creative thought leader, and passionate advocate for innovative learning. She is the author of the Jewish Educator's Companion and the producer and host of the podcast Overthrowing Education, where she explores bold ideas and practical strategies to reimagine and revitalize Jewish education. Batsheva is a seasoned Omer Aliyah guide, my go-to for all TOA education materials being developed, and I'm proud to call her a dear friend. Before we begin, a couple housekeeping remarks. The seminar is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Omer Aliyah YouTube channel. I will then stop the recording, after which we'll have an opportunity for open and confidential conversation with Batsheva. May Hashem bless the Omer Aliyah and all who are involved, so that we may experience individual, national, and global Geula speedily in our days. I now hand it over to you, Batsheva.
Wow. I'm overwhelmed for two reasons. One, because this is such an incredible project that you started, Nuriel. It is so meaningful for so many people, and I'm so grateful to be your friend and to count you as I just I have no words. I'm so happy. And also the fact that I get to bring us all home, that we are, this is Malchut. This is it. We've been working on ourselves and everything. And here it is. Here comes, we're at the home stretch. So let me just share my screen with you. Okay. Can everybody see? Thumbs up, somebody? Thumbs up. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is it. This is Malchut. This is all nobility, sovereignty, leadership. This is it. Before we kind of dig in, I just want to dedicate our learning tonight. And I want to say, when I was preparing this last year, I dedicated the learning to the hostages, and that they should be freed. And so, Baruch Hashem, it happened. But tonight I want to dedicate the learning to the memory of those martyrs that we lost in the past year, including the hostages that are no longer with us and the victims of terror and Jew hatred all over the world, and for the well-being of the Jewish people in general. And gathering all these different ideas for tonight come from Chana Rachel Schusterman, Rabbi Shimon Jacobson, Rabbi Shimon Lieberman, and Jacob Sandler, and I'm sure, all kinds of other amazing ideas that I've heard. Okay, so here we go. We've started with Chesed, went on to Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. We put it all together And now we're ready for Malchut. Um, so Malchut is the goal that God had in mind when he created the world. So all of the other sifrot, these are all the things that we've been working on for all of these weeks. All of these sifrot, they're only the means to see Malchut emerge. Rabbi Shimon Lieberman. So just as I mentioned, and kind of visually, I tried to show it that Malchut is the vessel that holds all of these other sifrot. It contains it all. And then has us be a partner with Hashem in creation. And creation really is happening every second of every day. We are constantly in a state of creation, and we get to partner with Hashem. And the Sfirot are linked to the 6 days of creation. The first 6 Sfirot are the 6 days of creation. And when you kind of put that all together, you can imagine Malchut equals Shabbat. So the Shabbos queen, I'm sure everybody's heard that term, the Shabbos queen is the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is God's feminine presence, God's presence in the world, and it's a feminine energy. I shouldn't say feminine presence, feminine energy in this world. And we know that for many reasons, but in the Mishnah Torah, it says, according to the Kabbalah, the feminine term Shabbat is more appropriate because the Shabbat is associated with the Sefirah of Malchut, which reflects a feminine dimension. So feminine dimension, part of that dimension is receiving. So as I said, we receive all of the other Sefirot, and it all culminates with Malchut. So, but we receive, but then what do we do with that? And that's also part of Malchut. We receive all of this, but we still have to manifest it. We still have to make it real on this earth, in this world. We have to manifest it. We do that. We give, we take everything that we receive, and we have to give it out. We have to give it back, because if we don't, then we're just holding on to it, and it's not really Malchut. And sometimes that's through teaching, and it can mean, for people like me, I'm an educator, but we teach every day. If you're parents or children or your friends in your job and whatever you're doing, we are teachers. And we are also all leaders. I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. Malchut is our expression of God's actions and attributes. And what I love about it is that each of us has a very different and unique way of expressing God's actions and attributes in this world. And each of our uniqueness is what makes it so beautiful. That's what makes this world special. And so, yeah, AI can't replace that. Malchut as noble, we talked about nobility, a noble sovereign and leader. What is the difference? Because we have a lot of leaders in this world. We have a lot of sovereignty in this world, but it's not necessarily noble. So what is the difference? Malchut is noble, and it includes dignity and humility. These are really important. So many, many people have heard this. Rabbi Simcha Bunim says that everybody should hold, he told this to his students, you should hold 2 pieces of paper all the time in your pockets. The first one should say, the world was created for my sake. And the second one should say, I am nothing but dust and ashes. And we have to know that both of those things are true at the same time. And we have to feel that. So let's break it down a little bit. Dignity. The active way to, I guess, activate dignity is to connect with the royalty within. So that's the royalty within ourselves and recognizing the royalty in other people as well. So I have this friend, now one of my dearest, he and his wife are my dearest friends, but at the time I barely knew him. This was 30 years ago. I was at a Shabbat table. It was one of the first that I had been to of this kind. And he got up and he said, this little Torah, he said, when you see that God is in each person. When you look at a person and you see in that person, and I'm going to say the royalty, the piece of Hashem, the nobility, how can you break their heart? And that stuck with me for a long time, to this day, that in all my interactions, I try to get back to that point about really making sure to see that in all people and how that changes the interaction. So we have to experience dignity as the inner empowering conviction that we make a difference in the world, because we do, each in our own very different way. We are the ones who, in our way, make a very big difference, and everybody does. So humility, we to be in awe by the responsibility of actualizing a world where God is known. That's a huge responsibility. We can talk about it, but to really understand and think about what that means to actually do that is, how can you not be in awe? And connected to that, to be completely humbled by this mission and by our personal mission that we have, and our mission as Jews in this world, and feeling so privileged to be this conduit for God in this world, to do these actions. I mean, that it's gotta be a very humbling feeling. Okay, so every single week, every single sphera that we do in the Omer is connected to a different one of our leaders, one of our forebearers, right? Like Chesed is Avraham and Yitzhak is Gevurah. Well, it shouldn't come as any surprise that Malchut is King David. So I loved the story about King David, and I feel like this really embodies what I just spoke about the dignity and the humility. So somebody says to King David, "On what merit are you king?" And he says, "I know who the true king is." And I think that's so beautiful to know that we can feel confident and proud in our mission and our leadership and where we walk in this world, always knowing who the true king is. That's what gives us our merit. So I want to really focus, as I said before, I want to focus on leadership. And you've all, I'm sure, heard this book, the seven, what is it? The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. It was a huge book, super famous, and all the different iterations of it, many, many. But we have the privilege to have the seven midot of highly effective leaders. So, and of course, those are love, discipline, balance, endurance, humility, bonding. Now, when we think of a leader, oftentimes, we think of that loud person who's kind of out in front, who's kind of leading the charge. But that's not always the kind of leader that is needed. And that's not always the kind of leader that we may be. And we take different things. A leader can also be who we are as a parent, who we are as a teacher, who we are in our jobs, who we are in a task in this world, in our mission, whatever that is, that's leading. So we can do all of that. So I'm going to break it down because, as we know, every single day, every week, right, we have a different in the counting of the Omer. Every single week is a different sphera, is a different mita, and each within that, of course, we know that there's 7 days in a week, and each of those 7 days correlates to a different sphera. So it shades the character, it shades whatever the overriding mita is, in this case, Malchut. So we're going to start at the beginning and see what these 7 steps are so that we can be highly effective leaders, and whatever that means. So first we start, of course, with Chesed of Malchut. So what is the Chesed of Malchut? It's about leading with kindness, love, warmth, and consideration. If you think about who the best leaders are, the kindest, the ones that you really want to be there for, the ones you want to follow, who do you want to be? How are you leading? How are you leading yourself? How are you leading others? What does it mean to be kind and to do that with warmth? for consideration. So thinking about all of those things. Then we have the Gevura of Malchut. And the Gevura of Malchut means that, yes, we lead in a loving way. It's so important, but we also need to have boundaries and we need to have discipline. And we have to do that for others and we have to do that for ourselves. We have to set boundaries for ourselves. Sometimes when we take on a leadership position or whatever it is we're doing, we give so much to it because we're so passionate, we love it so much that we forget to set the boundaries that we need to do. And also when you're a leader for other people, right? It's really important to set boundaries. I'm going to use parents as an example. For a parent, obviously loving is, the love, the compassion and everything. But if that just runs amok, right? The kids are going to be out of control. So you have to set boundaries. They need boundaries and they need discipline, and we need it. And we can see this is also true for Hashem and the way we connect with Hashem, right? Like Hashem connects with us in such a loving and compassionate way, but also we as human beings need to have boundaries and we need to have discipline, and that's part of our relationship with Hashem as well. Tiferet, of course, is about balance and harmony, and how do you bring all of that together? And if you know who this is, if you know who these people are, I don't know, maybe in the chat box you can shout it out or unmute and shout or something. But hopefully, if everybody's of a certain age, maybe you know. So this is from the Karate Kid, and this is Mr. Miyagi and his Daniel, his disciple, I guess. And one of the things that Mr. Miyagi teaches is about balance and harmony, and how that is the way for strength and to move forward, so to lead. So I just thought that was a fun image of leading with balance and harmony, really bringing those two things together, the chesed of Malchut and the Gvura of Malchut, and figuring out what's the balance that kind of makes it work, and what's perfect for that. It's really important as an educator. It's a hard balance to find. And I know sometimes for a parent, it's a hard balance to find. So I think in any capacity as a leader, it's really hard to know what that balance is, and within ourselves too. Where's the balance within ourselves that's going to bring ourself harmony as a leader? And then there's the netzach of Malchut, right? The endurance, the determination, that idea that no matter how hard things get, because when you're a leader, like sometimes things just don't go the way you're expecting them to, you want them to. So having that sense of we're in it for the long haul, and the determination to continue no matter how uphill the battles are, no matter what you have to do. So think about it reflecting the strength of your leadership. What is your endurance? What is your determination like? How are you able to manifest the netzach of Malchut as a leader? Those are important qualities to absorb and to manifest. The Hod of Gevura. So we talked a little bit about this already, this humility and also gratitude. Hod is also gratitude. But one of the things that I think, and I'm sure that most of you will agree, that one of the things that is so sorely lacking right now in our world, in our leaders, whether those are our political leaders or all kinds of leaders, is humility. And we can feel it in the world. Like that is, to me, one of the most important things to think about sorry, it says Hod of Gevura. It should say Hod of Malchut. I apologize. Humility and gratitude. And the gratitude goes with humility. If you are if you're humble, it comes from your gratitude. So appreciating your gifts and also the gifts that others bring to the table as a leader. What are your gifts as a leader? What do others that you are interacting with, what are their gifts that can help you lead? And what are their gifts that you can respect as leader? So the idea that there's no arrogance or ego, wouldn't that be amazing? I don't know how many of you may remember this, It was called USA for Africa. It was in 1985. Maybe you were born, maybe you weren't born yet. And I remember it very well. In 1985, this really started in 84. There was a famine in Ethiopia that was very severe. And one of the things that happened to try to raise money for them is that kind of based on something that happened called Band-Aid in the UK. All these American musicians, the biggest stars at that time, huge, all came together. I don't know if you can see, if you can pick out who some of the people are that you might recognize. They were huge, and they all came together. And it was Quincy Jones, who's the producer, is a legendary producer, who brought them together to record this song that was going to raise money for the people of Ethiopia that were suffering from this famine. And so one of the things that is legendary about him is that as all these incredible musicians were walking through the door, this was the sign. This is the actual sign. This is a picture of the actual sign. Check your ego at the door. And I think if all of these superstars can do that, then, we certainly can as well. And if Quincy Jones can lead this group of incredible superstars without his ego involved, we can too. The Yesod of Malchut is when we bring it all together. Yesod is like bonding. So it's about bonding with others. How do we bring together everything that all the different parts of how to be a good leader, and how do we bond with other people? That's such an important quality in a leader, is how do you connect and how do you bring everybody together for strength and so forth. So we end off, we've done a lot of those days already. We've done a few of those days already. We have a few more to do. Malchut of Malchuts coming up. This is the nobility of nobility, the sovereignty of sovereignty. So you have to ask, what is the sovereignty of your sovereignty? What is that deepest depth? What is the nobility in your nobility? And if that sounds a little wordy, you have to really think, like, what does that mean? So one of the things is to recognize that we have to have a deep-rooted security and confidence. That's the Malchut of Malchut, right? That our roots have to be strong. We have to feel super secure and confident in our mission, in how we're doing our mission, and putting it all together, how we manifest everything, and what that looks like, right? So that's really the Malchut of Malchut. And I want to, we have Shavuot is coming up, because right after Malchut of Malchut is Shavuot. And so I really want to bless us all that as we receive the Torah, that we can really manifest it with nobility, with kindness and love, with boundaries, with harmony, with humility, with gratitude, with a true understanding of who we are and who other people are, and being able to really root ourselves in that confidence of what our mission is and how we do it in this world. So that is about it. So
Thank you. Thank you, Batsheva.
yeah,
That was absolutely wonderful. What an epic way to wrap up these past 7 weeks to focus on these qualities of leadership of Malchut. And there's one thing that you said earlier that really struck with me, and I'm sure in the conversation portion of this we can dive into it more. But the notion of responsibility, right? That I have these skills, these talents, these passions, these strengths, and they should not be self-serving. I have this great and tremendous responsibility to share it with others, to lift others, to bring others in, because we're all connected, and that's what Hashem expects of us. We're here to serve.
exactly.
So I love that idea. Many others, and for those who are watching, I will recommend a particular book on this topic of leadership, which is by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zechron Livracha, Lessons in Leadership, a weekly reading of the Jewish Bible. You can
Yeah.
find it in many different platforms, many different outlets. It is absolutely fantastic and dives concisely yet in depth, parsha by parsha, week by week, on the lessons of leadership that can be gleaned from each week's Torah portion. So, with that being said, again, Batsheva, thank you, amazing. And for all of you who are with us live and who are watching the recording, we hope that you've benefited tremendously for the past 7 weeks, that you've encountered great insights, seeds that can alter the trajectory of your life. These are stepping stones every single day, starting from the second night of Pesach all the way through Shavuot. They're stepping stones, but those stepping stones are building something absolutely monumental. So, B'ezrat Hashem, keep going, keep learning, keep receiving, keep leading, and we will keep it going. All right, everybody. I will stop the recording now, and we will continue from there.